2 pieces of chocolate is about the same weight as this FPV drone, which also happens to be about the same weight as an ice cube. You might think the Cetus or Tiny Hawk drones are lightweight, but this is literally half of either of them. This made me curious as to whether this lightweight drone would actually be any good for beginners. After all, it is the cheapest FPV drone on the market today. So coming up in this video, you're going to learn the real pros and cons that actually matter for beginners, what it's like to fly something this ridiculously small, and most importantly, whether this is a smart first drone or a mistake that you're going to end up regretting.
Before we can see any of that, however, you first need to know what this drone actually is. This is the Beta FPV Air 65. Oh wait, hold on. This is the Beta FPV Air 65, and so what the hell is this one then? Well, this is its bigger brother and it's called the Air 75. Buying either of these drones, you're going to see that they are basically the same drone, just the Air 75 is larger in size and has more powerful motors and bigger propellers. And I personally made some pretty major upgrades to the Air 75, so I'll show you what they are later in the video and also why these upgrades might be a bit of a deal breaker for you. Before we can get into anything else though, there's something you need to see first, because honestly, if you're brand new to FPV, this could be one of the biggest advantages you'll ever have starting out. I'm talking about the 2 most important features of the Beta FPV Air series drones: their size and their weight. They are so small and so lightweight that everything around you practically turns into a padded room. You can crash into things, bounce around, and even if you forget to disarm after a crash, the drone ain't going nowhere. This is honestly about as close as you can get to simulator level safety, but in real life instead. It's just something that isn't possible with larger or heavier drones. But it actually gets even better, because one of my favorite things about small lightweight drones isn't just that they're safer, it's that you can fly them anywhere. And I'm not just talking about like flying through small gaps, although that's definitely a thing too. I'm talking about the noise they make. As soon as you're, I don't know, 5 to 10 to 15 meters away, you basically can't hear them at all, which makes these drones perfect, absolutely perfect for zipping around your local park between the trees and not upsetting any Karens in the process. So for a beginner, honestly, the safety combined with the flexibility of where you can fly is easily the biggest pro that these drones have. But then this does raise a very important question. If these drones are so safe and so beginner friendly, what's the point in practicing in a simulator anymore? Well, 2 words: flight time. In a simulator, you're blessed with being able to fly for as long or as little as you like, with absolutely no consequences. No dead batteries, no walking across a field to pick up your quad, just no stress. These little guys though, they run off tiny batteries, and as you might have already guessed, those batteries aren't exactly packing heaps of juice. For the Air 65, you've got 2 options, a 260 mAh or 300 mAh battery, and for the Air 75, you're looking at a 450 mAh battery or a 550 mAh battery. All up, you're looking to get about 3 to 4 minutes of reasonable flight time for the Air 65 and about 5 to 6 minutes for the Air 75, which honestly, if you compare that to other drones this size, that's actually really good. But if you take away the comparison, yeah, it still kind of sucks. It means you're never just heading out and, flying for 30 minutes straight. But let's be real, in FPV, that is kind of nearly never an option, no matter what drone you have. The upside though, is that these little batteries are dirt cheap. You can just stock up on a bunch and swap the batteries out all day long without blowing your wallet to bits. Overall, I'm a little bit on the fence about whether this is a pro for a beginner, but the low battery prices definitely help level the playing field. So I'm calling it 50-50. Not exactly an advantage, but for the world of FPV, this flight time is actually surprisingly good. Now, something that's definitely going to raise some eyebrows is the price, because the cost to pick up either the Air 65 or the Air 75 is a huge, hearty $95. Yeah. 95 bucks. That is one of the absolute cheapest FPV drones that you can buy today, and better yet, all you need to get it flying is a battery. So for 95 bucks, you might be thinking, right, where's the catch? And honestly, I've been trying to figure that out for myself over the past couple of months, and yeah, I haven't been able to find one. None of the parts inside of these drones have been recycled from old stock. They're fully equipped with ELRS, and they come with a perfectly decent analog video system. More on that in a moment. But it gets even better once you look at the spare parts. I know, spare parts, how exciting. A brand new frame though, it's $5. A replacement canopy, $3. A full set of 4 motors, $40. And that's what really locks this in. Not only are these drones crazy affordable to buy, but when, not if, you crash and need repairs, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg either. All up, the pricing on these drones is just insane for what you get, and the low cost of repairs honestly just makes it even more of a no-brainer for beginners. Right, so now's the time to show you what might actually be a deal breaker with my upgraded Air 75. To explain it properly though, you first need to understand what video systems these drones come with straight from Beta FPV, and why it can make a massive difference in the long run. Straight from Beta FPV, the only camera system you can get these drones with is analog. That means an analog camera and an analog VTX. That stands for video transmitter. And to be fair, if this is your very first drone, the quality is actually going to be pretty reasonable. You'll get enough range to go 100 meters or so without major breakup, and there's enough detail in the feed that flying around leafy trees and obstacles, I don't know what other leafy obstacles you have except for trees, but leafy trees and obstacles, it's just not a problem. So right out of the box, the video quality is solid enough that I'm happy to call it a pro, especially because I've actually seen much worse analog systems slapped onto drones that cost way more. But you know, what if you want to upgrade to HD later on? Well, this is where things get just a teeny tiny tricky, because the flight controllers inside of these drones is an all-in-one board, meaning it's not just the flight controller, it's also your motor ESCs, your ELRS receiver, and your entire video system, just all packed into one single piece. And that's the problem. You can't just swap out the video system. You can't upgrade the camera or add a new VTX without replacing the entire flight controller. So basically, you're stuck on analog, unless you're like me and you're willing to drop more money upgrading it than you originally spent on the drone itself. Man, I am, very smart. Right now, inside of my Air 75, I've got the HD0 all-in-one board, which, as you can guess, comes with an HD0 digital video system built in. The catch here, and there is a catch here, that board alone costs $100, and the Lux HD0 camera is another $45, meaning my lovely $95 drone turned into a $240 tiny whoop once it was upgraded. But honestly, if you're just starting out, this probably isn't something that you need to worry about. Analog is gonna do everything you need, and it's just, as a first drone, the setup doesn't really leave a lot of room for easy or cheap upgrades down the line. So, look, for a beginner, the lack of upgradability, at least without throwing down a big chunk of cash, is definitely a big con. But hey, even though hardware upgrades are limited, upgrading your skills with these drones? That's where they really do start to shine. Both drones have just got a ridiculous amount of power, easily enough that most pro pilots wouldn't feel limited flying them. In fact, there's so much power packed into the Air 75 that flying it indoors can actually become a bit of a challenge. So if you mainly plan to fly inside tight spaces, the Air 65 is probably the better choice for you. Outdoors though, both drones handle themselves surprisingly well, and sure, the Air 65 does get pushed around a little bit by wind, but it is still very much so manageable. The Air 75, it holds up to light breezes without, much trouble. It's just not gonna laugh off a strong gust or something, but for normal park flying and backyard sessions, it's going to be absolutely fine. Personally, I've been able to fly both of these drones really easily, chasing RC cars around, practicing new tricks, and even doing some light racing too. And honestly, in head-to-head battle, my Air 75 actually outperformed my old favorite, the Meteor 75 Pro. All that to say, when it comes to power, control, and room to grow, these drones over-deliver. There is so much potential just packed into them, and if the power feels like too much when you're starting out, you can always just throttle limit them down, which means you get the best of both worlds. Easy handling when you're new, and real performance that keeps you pushing your skills as you grow. Now look, everything that I've talked about so far would completely suck if the design was trash and these drones just broke after every single crash, right? So that got me thinking, how do they actually hold up? And what's the overall design like for beginners who are going to be crashing a lot? Well, to show you what I found, I need to start with something I'm not actually the biggest fan of, and it's something that beginners especially will want to know about. It's this, the lightweight adjustable canopy. Now, in terms of being lightweight and durable, honestly, it's pretty impressive, but it's got one major flaw. The adjustability of the camera angle is only between 25 degrees and 50 degrees, and for most racers that would be totally fine, but even for someone like me, I find 25 degrees still feels pretty steep when you're trying to fly slower or navigate around indoor spaces. Thankfully, there is an easy fix. You can just tie in a small piece of wire or zip tie to lower the camera angle further, Look, it's not exactly what I'm going to call ideal, but at least it is a simple solution that works. It would be really nice to have seen a beginner-focused option, but putting that aside, let's talk about the frame design. Somehow, Beta FPV have made a frame that's ridiculously thin, insanely lightweight, and still crazy durable. I have crashed both my Air 65 and Air 75 more times than I can count, and in all of that time, I have only ever broken one Air 75 frame. I will mention, I did have one motor randomly stop working early on after getting my Air 75, but full transparency, Beta FPV sent me the Air 75 about 6 months ago as a pre-release unit, so it is kind of possible the ESC might have had early firmware issues that are, already fixed now. Either way, it's worth mentioning, but I genuinely wouldn't stress about it. I haven't heard of that issue popping up for others as a common thing. So apart from the minor camera angle annoyance and my seemingly isolated motor issue, my overall experience has been super freaking positive. And for a beginner, having a drone that takes hits, survives crashes, and gets you back in the air without constant repairs is a massive, massive pro. It would be completely fair to say that the Air 65 has become my go-to recommendation for beginners who want to start flying indoors, and the Air 75 for those who want a mix of both indoor and outdoor flying. But honestly, the real question you should be asking right now isn't whether this is the perfect FPV drone for beginners, it's whether it's the right FPV drone for you, and whether that's a smart, future-proofed investment for where you want to go in FPV. And that is a much, much bigger, way more important question, because picking the wrong first drone doesn't just cost you money, it can kill your momentum completely. The good news is though, you don't have to guess. I have put together a simple proven checklist in this video right here that shows you exactly how to pick a drone that fits your goals, your budget, and your future upgrade path, all without the usual beginner mistakes. I'll see you over there very, very soon.